Huo Yuhao and Donger were sitting in the hotel room after the competition. He mentioned to Donger that the rare metals were listed as strategic metals in the Sun and Moon Empire at that moment. That was the reason their prices were very high. It would have given them a huge advantage if someone amongst them had spent some time on those rare metals, as they were much better and worthy than saving money. He had asked Brother Beibei to bring all the money they had in the Tang sect. They also had the money from selling the cannons to the two princesses, and because of that they had a tremendous amount of money to spend. But Donger seemed worried, saying that even if they were planning to buy that much quantity, she did not know if they were heading back to their homes safely. Yuhao held her hand, asking her not to be worried, and said that there was always a way for it and he just wanted her to trust him. The second round had begun. The competition's toughness was also increased, and the remaining 84 teams were fighting with all their might. After the competition of matches on the first day, a total of 21 teams had survived, and after that round, the remaining teams were qualified to enter the Robin round. But as there were still a total of 42 teams, the Ko system was being followed, because only when there were 21 teams left, the round-robin round would have been started. Tang sect's match was scheduled in the afternoon, and Beibei's injury was still not healed, but instead it had aggravated further. After lunch break, there was a little time left before their match to start, so they went to the arena to prepare themselves. Tang sect had participated in the fifth match, which was against the Iron Sword sect. The participant from that sect was Wang Chenxi, and from the Tang sect was Xu Sanxi. They both introduced each other. She called him brother and asked him to show some mercy on her. Sanxi greeted her and called her beautiful, and his eyes popped out while looking at her. It seemed like they had researched the Tang sect. They knew Brother Sanxi's weakness and had sent a beautiful woman to fight him. Suddenly, Sanxi started to feel chills behind himself. He felt like someone was glaring at him with dead eyes. He was reminded that it would have been from Nanan. He didn't want anyone to get him wrong and clarified that he was acting to confuse his opponent. Chenxi took out her shiny sword and got complimented by Sanxi on it. He also took out his shield before the battle had begun. Everyone was shocked by looking at his 6 rings, as no one had an idea that he was a Soul Emperor. It was going to be a battle of pride between a sword and a shield. She attacked him with her sword, but her powers were reflected on her because of Sanxi's shield. She complained that she got hurt by it and tried to blackmail him by saying that he always treats a woman harshly. He smirked at her and asked if she was not going to attack him then, and if so, she was allowed to leave the arena, as he didn't want people to think that he was a bad guy. It made her angry, and her hair turned into small snakes with her tongue sticking out of them. Sanxi was confused about why she had suddenly changed like that. Blue light started to come out of her eyes, and she attacked him with that, but he saved himself with his shield. From that attack, he got to know that she was a twin martial soul. Yuhao saw that, and started to call out Sanxi from the audience. Sanxi took some mystic depth steps from her. He wondered if his shield was getting petrified and if it was because of her gaze before. He didn't even know where someone with that kind of martial soul had come from. He decided not to show any mercy anymore. Yuhao was glad that Sanxi was finally taking that battle seriously. The shield he had was a Xuanwu shield, and it was not the usual one. It seemed that it had been mutated. Petrification did not affect even humans, so there was not even a possibility that it would work on Sanxi's mutated shield. Sanxi had duplicated his shield into many, and they were already surrounding her. He glared at her, asking if she was trying to run away. He closed his fist and she was on the ground. Sanxi had won the battle. He went to her and commented that she looked beautiful before, but why did she have to change suddenly like that and make him disgust her? He also told her that he had first thought that she had a twin martial soul, but when he checked late, he knew that it was not the case. He started to act over smart and called out the next team for the battle. The referee got angry and shouted at him, asking if he thought he was the referee there. He mentioned that the arena was soundproof and no one would hear anything anyway. Sanxi asked him to quickly announce the winner. The referee got more frustrated that he knew that without him telling about it. A guy came to Sanxi and yelled at him, asking what he had done to his sister. He called him a kiddo and told him not to worry, as he had not hurt her. He had simply put her to sleep and she would wake up in a day or two. Chenxi's brother got very angry and asked what they would do for their team match later, as Chenxi was their team captain. Sanxi started to laugh at his face and questioned if he was going to act pitifully in front of him. The brother screamed at him even louder and demanded to fight with Sanxi, but right at that moment he was on the floor. The referee announced that the opponent party could not continue to fight anymore, and Xu Sanxi of Tang sect had won the match. The next match between the Tang sect and the rest of the Iron Sword sect was like chopping vegetables. The Tang sect had achieved an overwhelming victory in that round. With that, the Tang sect had advanced to the next round, and the Iron Sword sect was eliminated. In the next scene, Yuhao was having a conversation with Nana in his hotel room, along with Donger sitting beside him. He questioned her about the situation. She addressed him as master and informed him that the situation was not advantageous, as black markets were reluctant to sell their rare metals. They were also saying that the amount they had received was itself very small, and what the Tang sect was asking was way too much. Yu Hao queried if they were saying that to increase the price, or there was some other reason. She responded that the 3 black markets had usually held underground tournaments. She further added to it that the prize for winning it was huge, and the rare metals were being used in betting in the competition. He wondered if the Soul Master tournament was not enough for them to gamble, as they were conducting a separate competition that was fully supporting the betting. Nana mentioned that the Sun and Moon Empire had issued a strict order that betting was not allowed in that competition. Yu Hao was confused about it, as he remembered that even in the previous tournament, Starluo Empire had been allowed to bet. She informed him that there were speculations in the black market that the current empire hated gambling, and they could not help it, so they had arranged their own competition. He pondered how people were competing in both at the same time, as there was no official announcement about it. He couldn't understand the reason behind it. Nana told him that they don't fight in those competitions and use their soul guides in their tournament. She'd also heard that the rules changed in every round. He asked her to elaborate about how that tournament worked and how the reward system and gambling system was. She started telling him that the first round was a qualifying round, and as long as the participants would make a level 4 soul guide, they were allowed to move on to the next round. Qualified players were allowed to place bets. The betting system was very simple. There were a total of 3 ways. The first one was the direct bets, in which a person could bet on how many total people would be passed. In the second one, they could bet on certain numbers, and in the third, they could bet on themselves. But it was mandatory to be in their knowledge that the odds taken were different in each method. Then they would officially move on to the next round. As the production of soul guides could not be completed in a short time like a normal game, soul engineers were given 3 days to take part. Then, all the following matches would be KO system matches, and each round would have a different set of rules. In order to attract highly skilled soul engineers to participate, the prizes for that tournament were all rare metals. As long as a person had passed the qualification round, there were prizes starting from the first round, and the prizes increased substantially with each subsequent round. Soul masters who had soul engineering as their primary profession generally cared about rare metals more than money, because it had brought them more profit when the rare metals were turned into soul guides. And also, rare metals couldn't be bought with money, especially in the competition as they were for the prizes. The 3 black markets also competed with each other, and the game was divided into 3 divisions. The champion of each division would compete again in the end. Each black market was using rare metals to bet in each match. Yu Hao questioned Nana if there were any requirements or restrictions to register in that tournament. She replied to him that anyone under 30 years old was eligible to participate, and the registration fee was 100 gold coins. Donger asked Yu Hao if he was thinking of participating in that tournament. He counter-questioned her, saying if she was not thinking that the rewards were too big to miss. He told her not to worry, as he was not going to take any risk in the tournament. She reminded him that he still had the official tournament in which he had to participate. He informed her that the black market tournaments were held at nighttime, and he would be asking second brother to tag along with him. Donger thought that the tournament had already started, but there was still 1 day left for it to start. She'd forgotten that buying rare metals was one of the most important reasons they were there. She had no problem if fighting in the tournament was Yu Hao's own choice, but she kept 2 conditions for it. First, he had to get permission from Big Brother Bei Bei, and second condition was that she would go along with him. As the evening settled in, Yu Hao, Donger, Nana, and He Kai-tu were all headed towards the tournament. Yu Hao disguised himself and everyone into completely different people. Kai-tu addressed him as a junior brother and complimented his disguising ability, saying that it had gotten stronger with time. The disguising ability could also make them all invisible at the same time, and because of that, they got out of the hotel without anyone knowing. Yu Hao had turned his hair dark brown. He informed the second brother that they would also need to change how they called each other. He would be calling Kai-tu just brother. Donger and Nana would act as his servants, so both of them would be calling him master. He would call Donger as Xiaodong and Nana as Xiaona. Kai-tu had a black mask on with long gray hair. He agreed with Yu Hao. Donger had short blue hair with a glass on her right eye. She was dressed like a man. Nana had short pink hair and glass on her left eye. She was dressed exactly as Donger. Donger commented that he was purposely taking advantage of that situation. He replied that using their real identity could be dangerous, and when they would arrive there, she better call him master. She tried calling him master, but he made her practice it to sound more natural, but when she couldn't say it properly, she got frustrated and gave up. In that time, the Mingdu underworld was ruled by 3 main powerhouses, namely Duskwater Alliance, General Alliance, and Alto Chamber of Commerce. Those 3 were the only ones left involved in selling rare metals in Mingdu, as metal trading was very profitable. As long as a person owned a mining channel, the production cost channel could be lowered, and the selling cost could be pushed to the max. Through Yu Hao's guidance and predictions, they had chosen to support the Duskwater Alliance that was considered the strongest of the three, though they were kept in check by the other two organizations. They arrived at the Greenhouse Hotel, and before entering, a guard came to the door and informed them that the hotel was not accepting any more guests that day, so they should go to another hotel. Yu Hao told him that they were there to participate in the Soul Engineering Tournament in Mingdu. The guard replied that the competition was already closed and asked them to head back. Yu Hao mentioned that he could help the Duskwater Alliance in winning that tournament, and if he didn't believe him, he was willing to bet on himself 100,000 gold soul coins that he would pass that qualifying round. The guard was shocked and asked if he was sure about that. He called him an estimated guest and welcomed him inside the hotel. Yu Hao mumbled that there was nothing that could not be solved with money. He found the building decorations very weird. The guard addressed them again as estimated guests and questioned if he could tell who was participating and asked the names of the participants too. He conveyed that he and his brother were participants. He revealed that his name was Tang Wu and his brother's name was Tang Xiu. Since the competition had already started, they were short on time for participants. He asked them to show him their skills so he could see and make necessary arrangements for both of them. Yu Hao and Kai Tu took out their weapons, and a blue light was illuminating its surroundings. The guards told them that they both could put their weapons down as it was just a confirmation. He had confirmed that they both were eligible to participate. The hotel looked ordinary from the outside but looked spectacular from the inside. It looked like a royal palace to Yu Hao. It was just a small tournament, but it had attracted a lot of soul engineers who were below the age of 30. He found the underground organization's influence quite impressive. There was a guy standing with gray hair and a light beard. Yu Hao asked him if he could tell him how many people were participating from the Duskwater Alliance. He told him that it would be 264 along with both of them. He further added that the qualification round was about to be held that day, and the minimum requirement was to make a level 3 soul guide within a certain time limit. But since they had arrived late, there was only half an hour left before the completion of the round. Yu Hao questioned if that place was usually an auction house. The guy asked him if he had been to the Golden Hall. Yu Hao replied with a no saying why he would think nobles like them, and without completing his sentence he started to cough in front of him. The guy headed back. But before leaving, he commented that it was a shame that the previous auction was just held a few days before, and that place was the biggest auction house in the entire Mingdu. He also said that even the royal family would attend their auctions sometime, and asked him to visit them when the next one was held. As they were heading forward, two guards stopped them and said that only participants were allowed to move forward. Yu Hao asked Donger and Nana to go ahead and wait for them. He wondered how much they were going to make in that round. He informed the guy that they had betted that both of them would pass the round and queried if anyone else had made a bet like that. The guy responded that usually people bet like the number of people who could pass the round or sometimes on certain individuals. Yu Hao complained that he had not mentioned it to them before. The guy added that it was not their fault they registered late as time didn't wait for anyone. Yu Hao still disagreed on changing his bet. Instead, he asked Donger and Nana to bet on them too, and hoped they would stay until the end. He mentioned to them that he was kind of a person who had valued money over anything else, and would mince them into pieces if they tried to cheat him. The guy got chills and turned around. Yu Hao shockingly asked if they were not even providing materials to them. The guy disagreed with him, saying that they had not, but someone might have come and registered it later. He also said that it was not surprising that there was none, and it was taken a short while ago. Yu Hao demanded to know the match rules. The guy showed him the hourglass that was on the other side of the room. They had to make a soul guide that was at least level 3 before all the sand from the hourglass had come down if they wanted to pass that round. They would lose if they failed to complete within the time limit, and he would be watching them over to make sure they had not used a pre-made soul guide. Yu Hao looked at Kai Tu and questioned if he felt that a bit familiar because they were treated the same in the first few weeks during the student exchange. Kai Tu agreed with him. Since they were too cruel by not giving them anything to use, they had to just use a piece that was in front of them. He picked up the metal in front of him and told brother that it was so horrible it was hardly worth using. The guy yelled at him that he was using the metal to just make a standard soul guide, and the metal was worth more than 5,000 soul coins. Yu Hao and Kai Tu both started working on the metal, and in no time they were done. The guy saw that there was still a little time left. He held it in his hand and commented on the soul guide that it seemed pretty plain and normal, and disappointedly said that it was not worth the price of the table they both had broken. He wore it on his right wrist, and as soon as he clicked the button, a yellow light started to illuminate the place. The guy felt a lot of pressure that kept increasing. Yu Hao laughed at him and asked if he didn't even know that, and it happened because he didn't do it right. He then pushed the stop button and the soul guide stopped. That was a simplified version of Soul Cannon, and it was a level 3 soul guide. He informed him that only 4-ring soul masters or above could use and control its power properly. The guy gave him back his soul guide, saying he had passed the qualification round, and he was allowed to return. The guy told him not to worry about whether they would take his soul guide back later or not. All the soul guides made belonged to its original creator, and he could also sell it to them later. Yu Hao conveyed to him that he could take that for himself and consider it as compensation for the table. The guy found him very generous as the soul guide was more worthy than the table and asked his soul power level. Yu Hao didn't tell him and said that he would find it eventually and advised him to do his duty and see his brother's soul guide. The guy saw the soul guide and it was made up of steel and found a waste to use skills to make a soul guide in steel material.